want. There it is. Finally. You guys, Histology Slides. There we go. There y'all are. Okay, come on in. Everybody in here. It's out of the way. A couple stragglers here and there. Oh, we still have a minute. Actually, 40 seconds. 30 or 15 or something like that. There we go. Some people scrambling to get in. There we go. Okay, now it's 10 o'clock. So welcome, guys and gals and students in general. It's 10 o'clock Wednesday, February 3rd, 2021. You guys are Biology 1161, Section 90, my Wednesday 10 o'clock lab. And this is our last meeting before your practical, which is next week, right? Remember that? Your practical is next week, and it'll be over this PowerPoint. We're finishing up this PowerPoint. And it's not going to take long today to finish up the last few slides we have. And if you have any questions after that, I'll entertain those. If you want to go back over any particular slide, ask me questions about it, you can do that. But remember, to take your practical next week, you need to Zoom like you're doing right now, but simultaneously, when you're Zooming, you log on to My Courses and start your exam at 10 o'clock sharp. And you got to do it at 10, and it closes at 10:30. It's going to be 25 multiple choice questions, and you have 30 minutes to complete it. So don't be late. Start at 10. And it takes most students like 10, 15 minutes tops to take it. Doesn't take long. Rarely it's going to take a student the entire 30 minutes. But don't bank on that. I don't want you to start late. If you log in late, you're late. I've had students log in. I only have 5 minutes to take it. I said, well, you better hurry. You better hump. So yeah, you're not going to give any extra time or anything like that. So log on at 10 and take it. And then when you submit your submit it, it grades it, and you'll know your grade immediately. And it'll put it automatically in your grade book and so forth. Okay. Any questions before we get started today?
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So it's gonna be just like the slides, right? Like you're just gonna have like exactly how it is, no extra things.
Yeah, it's not gonna be anything you haven't seen before.
Okay, I'm just making sure, like, if you had said something in class, then you would have like a little extra question.
It's all gonna be identification.
Okay. All right,
and it's all gonna be identification. I'm gonna ask you 3 basic questions. Name this organ, name this tissue, name this cell. And that's all I've ever identified on these PowerPoints. And honestly, for this entire course, that's all, for my lab, that's all I ever do is identification. Name this. What is this? Identify this. That's all I ask you. You know, I'm not going to ask you lecture type questions, you know, theory and function and that kind of stuff. No, that to me, that's lecture stuff. Lab is supposed to be, you know, hands-on, recognizing, you know, and so that's how I test you. So it shouldn't be bad. You know, if you familiarize yourself, I mean, if you're looking at this stuff for the first time, you know, the night before the exam, you're going to be in trouble because you're not going to. It's all going to look alike to you. But you know, spend some time going through it. You know, quiz yourself. You know, cover up the answers or whatever, and see if you can identify it. You know, because a lot of these things, I got arrows pointed. You know, that should be something you should know. You know, point to this, and I'm pointing at something. What's he pointing at? You know, you're probably got to know that. So that's what you should expect. And you know, it's going to be 25 of these slides. You know, some of them you might see some of them more than once, obviously, asking, you know, different questions, but 25 of the slides, asking you questions, and that's it. So, okay, any other questions? So last week, it's coming back to me. We got through all this stuff, and we got to, I think, remember this guy, absent on picture day? Poor Xiphoid, he missed out. But that's a good place to stop and get started today. Where's my thing? Oh, here it is. I'm going to change my display here. And now I'm going to let somebody in that's tardy. I'm not going to mention anybody's name. But the initials end with Monso. Anyway. So xiphoid, what's next? Well, muscle types. And if you're in my lecture today, I mean, I just told you about this stuff. Remember the three types: skeletal, cardiac, smooth. And remember I said skeletal, long, stringy cells that are multinucleated. They got the striations, really hard angles. This is longitudinal section. In cross section, it would look different. And I think I show you that anyway. And then smooth muscle, long, streaky, you know, uninucleated. And then cardiac is kind of like a blend of these two, where it is striated, but it's uninucleated. So that's a nucleus, and then that's a nucleus. But the hands down different thing of cardiac muscle is the only ones that you're going to see these dark lines. Those are the intercalated disc. Okay. I think that's it. Distinguish the three. Name this tissue, name this tissue, name this tissue. What is this little thing there? Intercalated disc. I didn't label that. Maybe I should have. I'll write it down. So there you go. Muscle types. And we saw skeletal and smooth in other areas. I think this is the only slide that I have cardiac muscle on. But you know, I can capture this image and ask you a question about it. Name this tissue. You should recognize it as cardiac muscle. These are the giveaway things. See these dark lines? Those are the intercalated disc. You know how to spell intercalated? INTERCALATED. Intercalated. It's what allows the cardiac muscle cells to contract in unison. Okay. So there's that. And then we talked about this today too. It looks a lot like your slide from lecture. This is a close-up. Well, let's look at this first. This is a nerve smear magnified. This is probably 40 or 50 times smear. And it kind of look like a photograph of deep space or something. Doesn't that very mystical looking to me anyway? It's like you're looking at a nebulae or something in outer space. Little stars everywhere. But this little splatter looking thing here, and there's one right there. Those are the neurons. Neuron. That's a neuron. That's a neuron. Maybe that one too. Maybe this one. And up here, those are all neurons. Nothing looks like nervous tissue. And the tiny little specks you see everywhere, little speck, little pieces of pepper scattered everywhere, those are the neuroglial cells. And of course, here's one neuron magnified like 400 or 500 times. You can see the detail of it. Here's the cell body, or the soma, S-O-M-A. Soma means body. So the soma of the cell is like the main body of the cell, right? There's that. And then the little specks of the neuroglial cells. And then the dendrites and axons of the neuron. The axon is the one long transmitting appendage of the neuron. But the sensory portions of the neuron are the dendrites. They're multiple. You like one here. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On one, they're usually opposite one another. And over here, this is probably, well, it's kind of, sometimes it's hard to tell unless they're together. Is this an axon or is this axon? It's kind of hard to tell. These look like dendrites here, and this axon there, and so forth. But that's it. That's a nerve smear, nerve tissue. It's not real hard. Once you see it, you will never forget it. Now, 12. Number 12 is bone. This is a cross section of osseous connective tissue. Man, that's what I'm real anal about that. You know, it's bone is an organ. Osseous connective tissue is the connective tissue. Well, this is a section through compact bone, and compact bone is made out of these individual bony units called osteons. This bracket right here, that's one osteon. So here's an osteon, here's an osteon, there's an osteon. The tissue, the actual connective tissue that forms the osteon forms around something that's already there. And so that there's going to be like a little tunnel, a little passageway that runs straight down the middle of the osteon. And that's an osteonic canal. So the dark spot in the center, those are osteonic canals. So all osteonic canals are hollow, and there's the hollow center is an osteonic canal. And in living bone, if this was a living piece specimen, there would be something in there. It'd be an artery or a vein, some kind of blood vessel, or it could be a nerve or a lymphatic vessel, or both. But usually it's some kind of blood vessel, because unlike cartilage is never going to have blood vessels running through it. But bone, or future bone, will. And what happens, it's the bone forming cells kind of migrate in, and they lay down this matrix, which is hard mineralized, but they entomb themselves in there. And so these little black spots you see right there, those are lacunae. I'll show you, yeah, this is a close-up. There's the osteonic canal right there. And then here's a lacuna, there's a lacuna. And there would be in a living bone, this is dry bone, so you can't see it, the cell, but there would be a cell in that lacuna, it would be an osteocyte, okay? And the lacunae are different in bone opposed to cartilage, because in bone you have these little radiating little channels coming out from the lacunae, which are called caniculi. And so this is showing you one caniculus. So all these little bitty cracks, see, it looks like little cracks, those are caniculi, okay? And so that's, where lacuna means little lake, a caniculus is a little canal. And that's for the interstitial fluid to travel throughout the matrix, okay? And these osteons, they're little functional units, little rings. Let me back up here for a second. Look at this. Page up. Don't they look like little tree trunks? You got little rings. See that? Like here's a ring, here's a ring, here's a ring, here's a ring. They form like that from almost like a tree. You ever look at a tree ring? You count the rings to see how old the tree is, whatever. Those are growth rings. And that's exactly what these are. These are growth rings. Now, they don't get one a year. It doesn't go like that. But they grow consecutively from the inside out. And each of the rings is called a lamella, or the ones that form the rings around an osteonic canal are called concentric lamellae. So in an osteon, you have concentric lamellae. So here's one, here's one, here's one, here's one. They form in rings like that. So concentric lamellae, lacunae. All these black dots are lacunae. Caniculi, you know, the little branches coming out from them. Whoops. And of course, you know, a little bit of the osteonic canal, just for reference up there. And this looks like the edge right here of the osteon. Let me get my pointer, a laser. There we go. So there, that's it. That's bone. Bone's pretty easy, okay? And then this is our last tissue, vascular connective tissue, and blood, a blood smear, a nerve smear, blood smear. And here you go. This is a typical blood smear, which it would look like under the microscope. Most of the cells you see, you know, the red cells everywhere, they look like little red donuts. You see that everywhere? Those are erythrocytes. Those are regular red blood cells, okay? Red blood cells everywhere. Everything else is just like this other random like stuff in there. See the little purple stuff here, there, that's platelets probably. And then these cells right here, the other cells, those are all white blood cells. They don't look white to me, they look purple. Well, that's that collectively called leukocytes, which means they're white blood cells in English, but leukocytes in Latin, which means yellow cells, but they stain various shades of purple. Makes sense, right? Anyway, what are the different types of leukocytes? Well, there's about a half a dozen or so different types, but in my lab, you're only going to see 2 different types of white blood cells: neutrophils and lymphocytes. The neutrophils, these are all neutrophils. Very easy to identify. They're the ones that have that kind of lobe-looking nucleus. See, that's nucleus, that weird-looking shape. Not 2 of them look the same. It's kind of lobed like that. See, it's got little pieces of it. Most nuclei you see are, you know, nice and round in the center of the cell, but not neutrophils. They're different. As a matter of fact, all the red cells, the erythrocytes everywhere, they're anucleated. They don't have a nucleus. The white spot in the center, that's where the nucleus used to be. That's just kind of how they are. That's all mammals are like that. Only mammals are like that. So if you're looking at a blood smear of a chicken or some kind of bird, there'd be a nucleus in the red blood cell, or a frog or a fish, or whatever, you know. And that's something to remember, particularly if you want to fake a crime scene. If you want to fake a crime scene, don't use chicken blood. They're going to look at the blood and go, hey, there's nuclei in these erythrocytes. This isn't human. And that's a true situation that actually have happened in the past. That somebody try to fake blood crime scenes with non-human blood, and you can tell, you know, so this is not human blood. Anyway, I hope I'm not encouraging anybody. Anyway, neutrophils. What do the lymphocytes look like? They look different. They're all, look at the lymphocytes, there's like 4 of them right here. They're almost all nucleus. You see this big dark purple thing? That's the nucleus. See a little bit of cytoplasm on the side, a little blue. See right there? That's the cytoplasm. So it's gigantic nucleus. And so that's it. Is for the blood smear, be able to identify 3 different types of cells: erythrocytes, neutrophils, and lymphocytes. If you can distinguish those 3 cells in vascular connective tissue, make you happy. La fin. That's it. Golly, we're done. Less than 20 minutes, we wrapped up this lab. And that's it. So next week is your practical. So I'm done with the PowerPoint, although I'm not necessarily finished with the lab, because I want to at least give you guys an opportunity to ask any questions before next week. I can go back over any slide if you want me to, kind of review like that. You guys, let me look at you. You guys have any questions about anything? Anything you want to see again? been studying, been looking at your slides, or previewing the recordings. Matt recorded all the Zoom meetings. They're all on my courses. You see a little link to the Zoom meetings. They all should be up there.
I have a question.
Okay, good.
The kidney, the last slide about the kidney. What is it? Where is this part at on the kidney? Like I don't know, like I know what it is, but I didn't know like
This slide or
okay.
this slide? Which slide? Or this slide?
Down one.
This one?
Yeah, that one. Like where?
This is the this is the outer edge of the kidney. Let me show you something. My handy dandy anatomical chart series. Can you see this? Let me show you something. I bought this thing when I was an undergrad, and that's how long I've had it. And it's I keep it in my office, and it's good for questions like this. It's all the charts, from what's this company called? It's a real common. They make posters and stuff. But let me see. I'm gonna have a good kidney shot in here. I can get to it. There's a lot of posters in here. Where'd you go? Hoop. Urinary tract. You see that? Let me get here where I can see you and everybody, including myself. I don't know if you can see that. I know. If I do this, if I hang on. If I stop share for a second, I think it's gonna make me bigger. New share, stop share, and then make me big. Am I big? I don't know. I'm bigger. See the kidneys? The kidneys, they're wrapped in fat. So they they don't show you on here, but out here, see this? Out here on the outside, there's an adipose capsule, fat capsule. And so on your slide, did you see that? Yeah, you can see that. I'm sharing screen. Share. Yeah, you can see this now. This is the edge. And of course, this is magnified. So this is the edge of the kidney. And this is that adipose capsule, or here they call it a perinephric fat. The word perinephric. Nephric, neph means kidney. So nephric means of a kidney. So around the kidney, the fat that's around the kidney, perinephric. Get it? And so that's what you're looking at right there. Did that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay. Anybody else? Let me see you guys. Good?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Could you go over the lungs?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I love the lung. Let's see. Here's the, whoops, there we go. Here's the lung slide. Let me do it like this. Make it big. There. This is just a section, a section through lung tissue. And almost all the lung tissue, you can see all this stuff out here. It kind of looks like you're looking into a sponge or something, isn't it? All the spongy little spaces, Those are the air sacs in the lungs, or the alveoli. The word alveoli is plural for alveolus, which is one little air sac. See, there's one little one by itself, one little one by itself. This is only magnified like 40 or 50 times, and so they're not very big. But all the alveoli, all the air sacs are made out of simple squamous epithelium. That's why I'm showing you this. So I can give you an example of simple squamous. But you know, simple squamous occurs in other areas too, and so I show you that as well. Now, lung tissue, almost everything is in there is alveoli, although you get blood vessels and bronchi and so forth, and so these are like the occasional blood vessel and bronchiole that are going to be in there. And so we zoomed in on that to check it out because there's different kinds of tissues in there as well. And so I think the next slide is kind of a same kind of environment, but magnified about 100 times. And so this is really nice, clean alveoli everywhere. So these little air sacs, and you can tell, oh wow, they are thin, thin, thin. So simple squamous epithelium. It's going to be forming all of these. Of course, here's a bronchiole. That's where the air goes to get to the air sac. And of course, you're going to have a blood supply too, right? So there's blood vessels and blood inside of it. Remember, blood, vascular connective tissue. You can tell the outside of this one's probably an artery because that's a lot of smooth muscle in the wall right there, etc. And then this next slide is a close-up of the epithelial lining of a bronchiole. See, in bronchioles, this is the pseudostratified ciliate columnar epithelium, or PCC, in the bronchiole. It's a beautiful specimen right here. I hijacked this from somewhere, and it's great. And because you can see, tall columnar cells that are ciliated, and the occasional grainy-looking goblet cells. So you got them all labeled here. And then these little guys down here in the bottom, those are the basal cells, and that's typical pseudostratified. Okay, so there you go. There's that. And then this slide, alveoli, those are the air sacs, everywhere. And that's all simple squamous forming those. Here I have simple squamous epithelium, alveoli, and endothelium. So alveoli everywhere. But remember, endothelium, the endothelium is the inner lining of a blood vessel. This is a blood vessel. It's an arteriole. The inner lining of it has an endothelium. And all endothelium, it doesn't matter if it's an alveolus, it doesn't matter if it's an arteriole or a venule or a capillary or an artery or a vein or a trunk or whatever. All blood vessels are lined with an endothelium, okay? And endothelium is made out of a kind of tissue, and it's always, always, always simple squamous epithelium, okay? One cell layer thick, a flat cell. So it looks just like this, but lining the inside. And you can kind of see that barely little nuclei kind of lining the inside. That's the alveoli, or simple squamous. This is a section of a bronchiole. Okay, here you can see, because here's the lumen of the bronchiole. The air would go, and then this is the PCC lining the inside. You see that, all right? And usually associated with bronchioles, you have little strips of hyaline cartilage, and so that's what this is right here. This is hyaline cartilage. It's adjacent to bronchioles. Almost everywhere you can see the bronchiole, you can have this stuff supporting the bronchiole, and very characteristic cartilage. Now, there's three different types of cartilage. There's hyaline cartilage, elastic cartilage, and fibrocartilage. Now, don't even worry about fibrocartilage. We didn't look at it in my lab because you're only going to see it in the 2 or 3 different places in the body that I don't have slides of in the lab anyway. So I never look at it. And it's, can't look at everything, So the main 2 cartilages I concentrate on are hyaline and elastic. Hyaline is by far the more common, or commonest is actually, that's the actual proper English, commonest. It's the most common, commoner. Sounds awkward, I don't like it. Anyway, that's the American way to say it, or my way to say it. But this is hyaline cartilage, the clear stuff. There's no fibers in it, so it means glass-like. And you can see chondrocytes and lacunae, the whole 9 yards. And so this is a very nice specimen of hyaline cartilage. Okay. What else? Okay, this is a lot of stuff going on in the lung. You know, that's why I love this slide, because you can see different things. Lots of smooth muscle, you know. The smooth muscle forms in line, because the bronchiole is a hollow organ. Remember I said this, if you were in my lecture this morning, remember all hollow organs have smooth muscle. And sure enough, look, there's hollow organ, smooth muscle adjacent to the bronchioles. Blood vessels are hollow organs, right? They're hollow in their walls, they got smooth muscle. It's thicker and more prominent in arteries than veins. So this is a nice thick layer of smooth muscle in the walls of this little artery or arteriole here. Okay, you can see blood in there and everything. Endothelium, look, there's that word. Remember that simple squamous epithelium lining the inside? So that's your endothelium. Just realize that. Okay. And then here again, beautiful specimen of hyaline cartilage in the lung adjacent to a bronchiole, right? And another thing about, you know, in the lung, hyaline cartilage is always associated with, or not always, usually associated with a bronchiole. Because it's possible you can look at a section, you don't see it. But if you're going to have it, that's where it's going to be. So the hyaline cartilage is associated with the bronchiole, and then always associated with cartilage is a perichondrium. And that's what I'm showing you here. And so I wanted my students to know that, well, if you have cartilage and you want to see some dense irregular connective tissue, look at the perichondrium. So that's a good specimen of perichondrium here and here, and that's dense irregular connective tissue. So this stuff is the same stuff that's like in the reticular layer of the skin. Okay, just a good place to look for it, you know. So I pointed out there. Again, you know, blood is a connective tissue, and so I can point it out. Say, name this tissue, you know. And if I'm pointing to blood, you should say, well, that's blood, or I won't have blood as a choice, an answer. You know, some kind of connective tissue. Remember, it's vascular connective tissue. And you can see, you know, blood cells, the red ones. In this view, these would be erythrocytes. The little dark ones are probably lymphocytes. This magnification, you can't really tell if it's a neutrophil or lymphocyte, but it's probably one of the two. But certainly the red ones are erythrocytes, making the vascular connective tissue. And that's it. So that's the lung. Any other requests? I'm feeling like the histology DJ. I'm playing request. What do you want to hear, guys and girls? I got all kinds of slides for you to view and enjoy this morning.
I have two quick questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, the shorter one, it might be dumb, but the lamina
propria?
Yeah, that is just what lines underneath the most, like the top layer, right underneath it, the underlying layer. Is that what that is?
What slide are you on, or what are you?
Just like on the lung, any slide where it has it, the lung has it.
The lung has it.
One more.
I'm trying to.
Two more back. Or one more back.
Right here?
Yeah.
Right here? Or was it here? Oh, God, there it is. I see it. I see it. Yeah, anywhere. It's not just it's just not confined to the lung, but it's always associated with epithelial tissue. Okay, remember, all epithelial tissues have a basement membrane, and the connective tissue associated with the basement membrane is the lamina propria. Now, the lamina propria might have a special name in certain areas. Like, for example, in the skin, the lamina propria would be the papillary layer of the dermis. Or in an area where you have a mucous membrane, it might be identified as the submucosa. Okay, it's the same thing. lamina propria, the underlying loose connective tissue associated with an overlying epithelial tissue. That's all that is. Sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't. Like right here, there's the endothelium. You would think, oh, endothelium, has a basement membrane. You can't even see the basement membrane, but it's supposed to be there. And you don't really see a visible lamina propria, but it's supposed to be there. But it's not as prominent in all epithelial tissues. But here you can kind of see a clear, distinct layer. That's not just air in there. There's not just space in there. There's going to be a tissue in there. And it's going to be areolar connective tissue forming this boundary, the zone right here. That's the lamina propria. That's what separates the epithelial tissue from the smooth muscle layer. Okay, and it could be anywhere, but there it is on the one.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question, the PCC, is that like the same thing as the epithelial tissue, or is it on top, like little hairs on top? Or
look right here. See this tissue right here? PCC. That's what it stands for. Pseudostratified ciliate columnar epithelium. That's just short. PCC. And so that's what this is. This is pseudostratified PCC. Pseudostratified ciliate columnar. It's just a lot to say. So we shortcut and say PCC. So this is PCC magnified probably 100 times. And you're probably talking about this slide. Is this what you're talking about? This slide? This is magnified like 500 times, or probably more. All of this is the epithelial tissue. And here's the basement membrane and everything. So these are the cells. It's all of this is PCC. See? Pseudostratified ciliate columnar epithelium, or PCC in the bronchioles. What are you looking at? Something different? This
no, sir. I was just asking because I didn't know if it was like on top of the epithelial, or if it was just all.
It is. No, it is the epithelial tissue. It is the epithelial tissue. That's what it is. Yeah. Okay. See, this is epithelial tissue. This is muscle tissue. This is connective tissue. Connective tissue. This is all connective tissue. It's either going to be epithelial tissue, muscle, or connective tissue. You'd have to look in a nerve to see nerve tissue, and I don't point out any of that. We just looked at a nerve smear. So I will never ask you nerve tissue other than on a nerve smear.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody? Y'all gonna be ready for next week? And then, practice going through whatever, and you can email me, and I have office hours too. We can Zoom and do what I'm doing now. Your very own private Zoom meeting between me and you, or you and a friend. If you want to Zoom with a friend, we can do that during my office hours, and I can point out stuff for lab or lecture, whatever. So I'm available if you guys need anything. So no other questions for today before I close shop. So yeah, next week, y'all make sure that you are ready. You can Zoom and you can do your test at the same time. Make sure you have a live video feed. Like you see me right here. I have to have live video feed of your face, and don't show me something like this or whatever. I put my laptop inside a box so it cuts down on the glare. I don't know if you notice that. See, if I pull it out here, you get too much glare. So I stuck y'all in a box right there. See that? That's better, isn't it? Okay.
Do we use the same link to Zoom like we would be Zooming into class?
Yes. Same thing for the entire semester. Every Zoom meeting should be the same link. Yeah, just Zoom in, attend your meeting, get your meeting going, and then make sure that you have access to my courses. And so at 10 o'clock, you go on to my courses and click and start your test. Like I said, it's only going to take you about 10 or 15 minutes to finish it.
Do you want, I'm sorry, do you want our mics muted whenever
Yes,
we're taking the class?
Yes, yeah. You should always mute your mic.
Okay.
The only time you should unmute your mic is if you have a question for me. And you just, you click on that little red thing with the little mic with the red slash through it. Just click on it and unmute. But yeah, keep yourself muted. So, we don't hear kids crying in the background or radio or somebody ordering McDonald's or something like that. Whatever you're doing. So you should mute your mic always. So is that good? No, you don't want to look at anything else? Okay, I'm gonna put away my handy dandy chart and so y'all holler at me if you need something between now and then. That'd be good. Okay. All right. Well, good luck. I will see you guys next week.